Making a huge investment in infrastructure to support quality of life in the state. Governor Eric Holcomb details about his ambitious $1 billion Next Level Connections initiative and how he plans to pay for it. Plus, Inside Indiana Business goes behind the gates of Naval Support Activity Crane, the third largest naval base in the world with more than 5,000 employees. Our month-long series kicks off with a look at workforce opportunities at Indiana's only federal lab. And charitable chocolate company Endangered Species Chocolate, it's been on a roll since setting up shop in central Indiana 13 years ago, now producing some 25 million bars annually. We'll talk growth and the latest product focused on saving African elephants. Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business.
Stand by for top of show with music full. Stand by D1 Sound, sponsored open with music. Stand by camera 3 with Gary. We're out in 5, 4, 3, 2, dissolve, cue Gary.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. New roads, nonstop flights, trails, broadband, new port. It could all be on the Hoosier horizon. Governor Eric Holcomb rolled out a big list as he rolled out his $1 billion Next Level Connections program this week. The list of projects to be funded with a one-time toll hike on heavy vehicles. And for more on the infrastructure investment plan, let's turn now to the aforementioned Governor Holcomb. And the Governor is always welcome to the program.
Great to be on the best good news TV show of the week. 52
I appreciate
weeks
that.
a year.
I appreciate that. Now let's get. I want to talk specifics in a moment, but to bottom line it, because there's a lot to unpack here.
Sure.
In your view, this $1 billion plan, what's the bottom line? What's it all about?
Well, Next Level Connections is, as you say, a big, bold program to better connect us with each other, connect us with the beautiful outdoors, and better connect us to world destinations and markets. And so, you know, having 6 different modes of transportation involved in one package, whether it's broadband internet going into rural areas that are now underserved or unserved, or trails linking our communities together, or, like as you mentioned, direct flights, accelerating big transformational regional road projects, our potential 4th water port, the rail projects up in northwest Indiana, which is all about helping us attract talent into that quadrant of our state, from Hammond down to Dyer, and then from Gary over to Michigan City. So this is an all-the-above ambitious program. It's all about investing in our Indiana people and places, and that goes right to what you said at the outset, and that is improving our quality of life here in the state of Indiana.
Let's talk about the biggest chunk of money, $600, targeting a ramp up, an accelerated completion of I-69, ramping that up or improving that by three years.
Yeah, $600 million. Meaning that we're going to pull that back to 2024 to be completed, not 2027. That also then in turn frees up $600 million down the road. But having that connection between Evansville to Indianapolis is only part of the story. It is really connecting 3 countries, Mexico, the United States, and Canada. And so having all 3 of those markets connected on one route, that's a game changer.
Something you mentioned that I think that hasn't been talked about a lot is the fact that by doing that, by accelerating the completion date, you're freeing up some more money. This
has become the Indiana way, under budget and ahead of schedule. And when we're talking about I-69, one of the biggest projects in the country, completing section 1 to 6, or 31, or making that a stoplight-free experience, being able to put it on cruise control in South Bend and not have to take it off until you get to Indianapolis, or those improvements on 20, which parallels the toll road, or the improvements themselves. The Indiana Toll Road Concession Company, they're going to invest by year 2025 $500 million into that road, making it one of the best experiences that a motorist could have.
Okay, rural broadband is a huge issue for many areas of the state, and you've targeted $100 million to improve that high-speed internet.
Well, Purdue University just recently, in about the last 10 days or so, released a study that said that 93,000 Hoosiers live in internet darkness. which equates to about, depending on how you look at it, a loss of $12 billion over the next 20 years, or a gain of $12 billion if we usher them into the light, so to speak. And so we know this is not just about the connection, but it's the connection where it leads to. It's telemedicine, it's better crop management, it's more online education pursuits and possibilities. So we want to make sure that this is about all of Indiana, and all 6 modes of travel and all 92 counties could benefit from the trails or the internet or the roads.
Right, I want to touch on a big one too, $90 million for bike and riding trails, connectivity, quality of life, I assume?
Absolutely, and you see we've made tremendous progress on this front as well over the last decade. You kind of organically see the dots and the lines emerging community by community all over the state of Indiana. We want to connect those dots. We want to make sure that by year 2020, every Hoosier is within 5 miles of trail access. We know this is a huge factor, quality of life factor, those amenities, and nothing better than hiking or biking or getting out on a horse and riding the trail.
Yeah, before we get to the payment issue, $20 million for nonstop flights. We've got the nonstop from Indy to Paris that launched earlier this year. What other markets could we potentially see?
The first transatlantic flight is proof positive that this works. It's exceeding our expectations. But we want to make sure that we can connect with more North American, more flights direct to Asia and Europe, et cetera. We want to become the Midwest hub for international flight.
All right, you want to fund this by increasing the tolls along the toll road for heavy-duty trucks. Some Democrats, Representative Pat Bauer, among others, say there hasn't been transparency. He calls it a tax increase. Your response?
Well, we were well under market on axles 3, 4, and 5 compared to other toll roads around the country. The good news is we're still well under market, that rate for axles 3, 4, and 5. It won't affect passenger cars. And so we want to make sure that first and foremost, that toll road, the Indiana toll road, is the safest, swiftest mode of travel for passenger cars and for truckers, quite frankly. And it will be under this new renegotiated deal. All
right, multiple forms of transportation and connectivity impacted by this $1 billion plan, including a potential 4th port. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb, as always, thanks very much.
Great to be with you, Gary.
All right. Well, still ahead, naval support activity. Crane covers more than 62,000 acres, one of the largest employers in Indiana. We begin a month-long series focusing on the world's 3rd largest naval installation. It also has one of the highest concentrations of scientists, engineers, and technicians in the country. We'll look at workforce opportunities. But first, Indianapolis, only the 7th city in the country to get 5G technology from AT&T. How some say Indiana is helping shape the future of 5G. It's time now to go inside innovation, brought to you by DMI, mobilizing enterprises for the connected world. Well, the Federal Communications Commission has pinpointed Indiana as one of the nation's leaders in implementing policies that are paving the way for the deployment of 5G networks. Mary Rachel Redmond joins us now with more on Hoosier policy guiding the framework for the rest of the country. Mary Rachel.
That's right, Gary. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr says Indiana is among those at the forefront of the mobile broadband revolution. During a press conference at the State House this week, the commissioner announced the FCC's plan to unveil what it calls common sense regulations to guide the rollout of 5G nationwide. Carr says Indiana's current policies on small cell wireless deployments will help shape the future of 5G. And the FCC isn't the only one noticing. In recent weeks, both Verizon and AT&T announced Indianapolis will be among the first cities in the country to receive the higher speed service. So how did Indiana leapfrog places like San Francisco and New York City?
The reason why Indiana is getting these deployments is the policies that the state legislature put in place here. So we thought, how do we build on those ideas so that every community, not just Indiana, but across the country, gets a fair shot at next-gen connectivity, building on the grassroots ideas first identified here. Take one aspect of 5G. A lot of people talk about autonomous cars. If we can make that a reality sooner in more communities, think about the lives that can be saved. Obviously, there's a tremendous economic upside as well. So we want to see that spread through more communities.
The FCC is set to vote on the 5G plan by the end of the month. A source within the FCC tells me he expects the vote to pass. One interesting side note, an Accenture report released earlier in July found that implementing 5G in the U.S. would lead to $500 billion in national GDP growth while adding 3 million jobs to the economy. Gary?
All right, more tech momentum. Rachel, thanks. Well, here's what's on tap now in tech news, served up by Sun King. The Wabash Heartland Innovation Network, a 10-county tech-focused initiative, has released a study illustrating lagging broadband access in the region. The findings suggest residents would have saved some $27 million if all unserved homes had access to high-speed digital technology. An Indiana fiber network has relaunched under a new name, now known as Intelligent Fiber Network. The Indianapolis-based company says the rebranding effort draws on its 16-year history and positions itself for growth in a digitally focused world. And for Tech News 24/7, be sure to check out InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Still ahead, Endangered Species Chocolate is an Indiana company with global impact. Company leadership is here to discuss expanding production and a new warehouse. But next, Naval Support Activity Crane has been supporting our nation's warfighter since 1941. It is the third largest naval installation in the world. Our month-long series, Inside the Gates at Crane, begins with a look at workforce opportunities. Here's what's making news now around Indiana, brought to you by your Indiana Fever. Well, one of the highest profile golf courses in the state has a new owner. Victoria National Golf Club in Newburgh near Evansville has been sold to Nebraska-based Dormy Network by the Victoria Partners team, which acquired the course from its original owners in 2010. Tom Fazio designed the course that opened in 1998. The Indiana Chamber of Commerce has named Jasper its 2018 Community of the Year. Jasper currently has some $200 million in projects underway, including the recently opened 75-acre Parklands of Jasper Central Park and the $30 million Jasper River Center development. Well, this week we are kicking off a month-long series taking you behind the gates of Naval Support Activity Crane. The installation is one of the largest employers in Indiana and perhaps one of the state's best-kept secrets, providing a wide range of opportunities for both white and blue-collar workers. Our series begins with a look at workforce opportunities. Naval Support Activity Crane spans more than 60,000 acres, about 40 miles southwest of Bloomington. It was established in 1941. Just 6 days before the attack on Pearl Harbor. Today, Team Crane supports the world's third largest naval installation and the second largest Army ammunition depot. It is Indiana's only federal lab where scientists are developing complex night vision systems and electronic and undersea warfare systems.
I think one of the things that often gets lost whenever we talk about NSWC Crane is the fact that there's both a Navy presence and an Army presence here. And it certainly leads to opportunities both in the white and blue-collar sectors. For NSWC Crane, we have about 3,400 employees. About 2/3 of those are scientists, engineers, and technicians. So we have a very, we certainly lean toward the white-collar portion of that equation, but tons of opportunities for folks of all persuasions. We often spend a lot of time talking about the transformation that's taken place here at Crane. If you go back to the 2005 timeframe, we were an organization that did a lot of things for a lot of folks, and we were proud that our labor rates were cheap. And at that time, we started asking ourselves questions about where could we provide most value, where could we have technical depth and expertise, where could we be national leaders. And we stood up those three mission areas of strategic missions, electronic warfare, and expeditionary warfare. And I would say that a decade later, substantial growth from a national leadership perspective, and we have seen considerable growth in our technical expertise as well. On a five-fold increase in PhDs, for example, since that time.
It is a workforce that is changing. Kim Rush is a native of Seattle who opted to stay at Crane rather than return home.
Life brought me here to Southern Indiana. I had a chance to go back to Washington State, and I chose to stay here because I'm really passionate about my job. The benefits here are great. The work-life balance is phenomenal. Being federal employees, we get 10 paid holidays. And at least I can speak for the Crane Army side, you know, you get about 200 hours of annual leave that you can accrue. And we work a 4-10 schedule, which is, I think, a little bit different than some of the other schedules offered with our Navy partners. So we get 3-day weekends and sometimes those 4-day weekends. So that work-life balance to me was very important, and a lot of those other benefits that you just don't get anywhere else. I don't know of many other places, maybe Amazon, maybe Google, some of those places where you have a gym on base, you have our MWR, which they run the marina, you can rent boats. I can do that all within kind of our crane base.
On the technical side, she mentioned Google, Amazon, some of those tech companies. From that technical side, talk about the ability for engineers and those people with technical expertise to kind of come in and flex their engineering muscle, if you will, with the kinds of projects and kinds of things that go on here.
Our technical expertise in those market verticals that I mentioned really has grown substantially. Where I think a decade ago we might have struggled a little bit to bring in technical talent and have them immediately engaged. That's just not the case today. Folks come here, they're excited about the workload. It's why we've seen the 5-fold increase in our PhDs. And we have great reach back to our academic universities and our industry partners. And because of that, just able to bring great subject matter expertise to solve kind of the nation's and the Navy's technical problem.
Next week, in part 2 of our series, we will look at the amazing economic impact at Crane. Well, coming up next, endangered species chocolate has about 50 workers, yet they produce a whopping 25 million chocolate bars annually. Company leadership here to talk growth and a new product. There they are in the Inside Indiana Business Social Media Lounge. They'll join me in studio next. Well, endangered species chocolate has been churning out chocolate bars for the past 13 years on the Indianapolis Northwest side. Today, the company produces, get this, more than 25 million bars annually. The candy manufacturer is growing and launching a new product as well, salted peanuts in dark chocolate, in hopes of bringing attention to elephant conservation in Africa. And for more now, let's turn to Director of Innovation, Whitney Bembenek, and Director of Marketing and Brand, Todd Dahlberg. And welcome to the program.
Thank you.
A lot has changed. It's been a few years since we've had the company on the show, but take us back to the arrival in Indianapolis. I remember it, 13 years ago, the company really came to Indiana from the Northwest U.S. in Oregon. So talk a little bit about that.
That's correct. So the company was incepted in Talent, Oregon, where a gentleman had a passion for chocolate and conservation. And so from that very day, 25 years ago, we made a commitment to give back to conservation. And today, the senior leadership has set forth the goal of giving back $1 million to our nonprofits on an annualized basis.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that, because that philanthropic piece is ingrained in the business model.
It really is, and what's interesting about that is it's the one thing that's not changing about endangered species chocolate is that commitment to the mission. As we move forward, we have deep dived into understanding our consumer and appealing to them best so that we can meet those goals to get that give back.
Yeah. Todd, we're going to talk about some of the changes here in a moment, but talk about growth. Because as you look at it, again, 13 years ago, the arrival of small, efficient company, you're now producing more than 25 million bars. That's a lot of chocolate.
It is a lot of chocolate. 100,000 bars a day are produced in our facility here. And so, the great thing about that is that we've been able to figure out a passion for our product and be able to carry that out to the consumers. So many of our consumers are driven by what our product's mission is, and our ability to give that back 10% on an annualized basis is really an exciting thing.
Well, talk about this, a new product, and again, that connection to conservation, specifically elephants.
So our newest bar this year is a 60% dark chocolate with salted peanuts, featuring the African elephant. It's tied back to the Wildlife Conservation Network, which is a partner of ours that has focused on the elephant crisis. And they developed a fund in partnership with Save the Elephants. And it's a staggering number to hear how many elephants are dying every year. Over 33,000 elephants are lost every year to poaching. And it's about one every 15 minutes. So it's a staggering number.
Whitney, if you could talk about a lot of change. The mission stays the same,
right.
but from a brand strategy standpoint, there's change.
So starting in the holiday, we are launching a new look for endangered species chocolate. We have 3 great holiday flavors hitting shelves in November, and then starting in the new year, we have a completely new look that we are really excited to share with consumers.
All right, as we wrap up, Todd, talk about this big sweepstakes that you're doing for the first time.
Yeah, so we've launched a national sweepstakes earlier this year where we're going to take 2 consumers over to Kenya, Africa to experience conservation firsthand. Save the Elephant Camp is part of that experience, as well as a safari. So it's a great opportunity. Consumers can go on chocolatebar.com to learn more about that.
All right, lots of change, to put it mildly, at Endangered Species Chocolate. Whitney Bembenek, also Todd Dahlberg. Thank you both very much. Keep in touch.
Thank you, Gary.
All right. Well, coming up, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Indiana already serves more than 1,200 youth annually. Now a new $1.8 million building will help expand services and eventually help even more kids. Leadership from the nonprofit will be here to explain how the space will help transform the lives of children and the community. Stay with us.
Stand by D1 Sound, sponsored open with music. Stand by camera 3 with Gary. We're out in 5, 4,
3 seconds.
2, dissolve, cue Gary.
It's time now for the Business of Health, brought to you by Hendricks Regional Health. Well, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Indiana has unveiled plans for a new home and mentoring hub, which will mean a healthy improvement for the organization. Barbara Lewis is back this week, filling in for Kylie Valletta in the Business of Health. Welcome back, Barbara.
Well, thank you very much, and this is big news indeed. Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Indiana will soon start renovations at 14th and North Meridian in downtown Indianapolis next month. So joining me to talk about the new center and its goal of helping children live healthy and successful lives are Susan Brock-Williams, immediate past board president, and Aaron Boyle, board and campaign committee member. And thank you both for taking time and being here today.
Thank you, Barb.
So let's first talk about the location. Why did you choose the location? And I think this question's for both of you, but Susan, let me start with you.
Well, the location really speaks to the need that we have for mentors. We have about 1,000 kids in our community right now waiting for a big brother or a big sister. So by having this central location where we're bold and we're noticeable, people will hopefully understand the need for filling our mission and helping these kids.
Okay, and Aaron, your expertise is real estate, so same question for you. Why this location?
Well, the building is centrally located within Indianapolis and within the 3-county area that we serve, so it's easy for our volunteers and bigs and littles to get to.
Okay, and so now you have renovations to do, and quite a bit of those. What will the center offer when it's completed?
We hope, as you said, it will be a mentoring hub for our community. So we'll have activities like training our bigs, having match activities, as we call them. So we get our matches together on a regular basis to do fun things, cooking, play games, whatever. We'll also have fundraising events there, nice receptions for our donors and supporters. So there's a lot that we can do in the building. One exciting thing we're having in the lobby is a slide that comes from the 2nd floor down to the first floor. So hopefully the matches will have fun doing that.
Okay, great. And anything to add there, Aaron?
Well, it's just, you know, it's a much more comfortable place for the employees to work. It's central to where a lot of them live, and it's central to a lot of the volunteers that we have. It's dueling slides too, by the way.
Oh, right, yes.
It's dueling slides, not just
races.
Oh, great. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits to these young people who are taking advantage of this and who are lucky enough to be matched with a big sister or a big brother. I mean, you both have been longtime board members. What have you seen? What impact is this organization having in these kids' lives?
Well, we have real data nationally that shows that for littles that go through our program, they are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. 97% are less likely to. They have better grades. They make better choices. They feel more confident. So that all leads to better health.
Okay. And you still need some community support here. I know this is just the announcement, and now things will go underway. So what sort of things are you hoping that the business community and the community at large will help you with now?
Well, we're always looking for more volunteers. We have over 1,000 kids waiting on the wait list. We need bigs to volunteer. We're also doing a capital campaign to pay for the building and the improvements, as well as a $2 million investment in expanding our program. So we're looking for people to donate to the capital campaign as well.
You know, I didn't ask about numbers. How much was the building, and how much are you hoping to raise?
The building itself is about $1,800,000, and we're putting another $3 million into renovations and moving costs and furniture and things like that.
Okay. And Susan, what are you hoping that the community steps forward and does for you?
One is consider being a big. We have such a need for volunteers. It makes me sad that there's these 1,000 kids wanting a big brother or a big sister, and sometimes they have to wait up to a year or 2 years even to get that person. We're particularly looking for male mentors, so any men out there who might want to volunteer, please let us know. But then the business community and the individual donors and foundations that might support this effort is sorely needed.
Okay, so I hope people who are thinking about becoming mentors will go on the website and they'll find out what's required of them, and if they're interested, to contact you.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Well, congratulations on this big announcement. Glad to have you both here. Gary, back to you.
All right, Barb, thank you. Well, 2 Indiana MBA students launched Blake's Seed-Based, a nut-free snack brand, last year. And at that time, they raised more than $20,000 in just 48 hours. The company's seed-based snack bars provide a solution for the millions of people suffering from nut allergies. And for more, let's turn it over now to the innovators with Dr. K. Dr. K, take it away.
Well, thank you, Gary. I'm really proud because this innovation comes from one of my former MBA students at Indiana University, the CEO and founder, Blake Sorensen. Blake, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. You know, I start with all my guests with this question. Where did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, so the backstory is I have a deathly nut allergy and was frustrated with the snack options on the market. Everything had nuts in it or was produced in a facility with nuts. So I decided to kind of take it into my own hands and create snacks of my own.
So what exactly is Blake's Seed-Based? I mean, that's the name, but what is it?
So we make seed-based snacks, so pumpkin seed, sunflower seed, flax seed, and they're top 8 allergy friendly, which means they're produced in a certified nut-free, gluten-free, top 8 allergy friendly facility.
So is that the specific innovation behind the bar?
So I think it's the ingredients is one innovation. You know, seeds I think are an incredible superfood, and the other innovation is how we make the product. Right, the lengths we go to make them really top 8 allergy free.
To make sure that they're in this nut-free facility and stuff.
Correct. Everything from sourcing the ingredients to how we produce them, we go to every standard possible.
And I heard something about a sauna, a traveling sauna. Can you explain that, Blake? What's going on there?
Yeah, just kind of an extension of our brand. We have a sauna on wheels out in Colorado. It's called the Blake's Seed-Based Sauna.
All right.
So you'll see it at different skiing hills, different events, and yeah, we're all about healthy living, and it's kind of an extension of who we are as a company.
So it's not really the product itself, it's just sort of an image, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of a marketing ploy, but hope to see them all over the country soon.
That sounds good. So what is the potential market for this innovation?
So there's 15 million people with food allergies, so I think that right away is a market for us. Right. But outside of that, you know, we make products that are extremely healthy. They're all natural. So outside of the allergy-friendly market, it's just the health and wellness market. So we think there's a massive potential for the different products.
Fantastic. What about potential capital for this? How are you operating now with capital?
Yeah, so we started with you know, crowdfunding. We went Kickstarter to prove the method.
Right.
We've since moved on to friends and family. So that's what we're just finishing up right now.
Good.
So that will kind of get us to the next step before we'd eventually do a Series A.
Very good, very good. So what do you see as the growth potential for this?
We think it could be very large. I mean, when you look at just the snack bar market in general, it's a $7 billion market.
Wow.
We plan to make, you know, protein bars, snack bars, trail mix. So, you know, we need to prove it out, but we think that the market is extremely big.
And you can fit into this with all these people with these allergies, right? I mean, that's the key?
Yeah, you know, we started this because the allergy-friendly space just wasn't innovative.
Right.
We're trying to shake things up, and I think we're on our way.
So what are the next steps in the year ahead, as you're looking out right now for the year ahead?
So we launch on September 18th.
Oh, you do?
So we'll be on our website and on Amazon. So encourage people to go try the product. And then from there, it's just getting the word out. So raising awareness. We have some marketing techniques.
Good.
And, you know, we'll roll out different products throughout the year.
Fantastic. That's really great. Well, as you do on each and every show, I have some Dr. K's prescriptions to try to kind of help out our guests. And so for you, I came up with what I called land, learn, and lead. And the land was the idea of maybe you could land one large contract as you start to launch, And from that larger contract where you've got to supply a number of these bars and, you know, really produce a lot, you could learn from that client, you know, and get, as you're already getting feedback from individuals as you've been doing, but now get feedback from a larger client. And the last thing I put was lead with that knowledge. Become a leader in your space, and you can use that knowledge to do that. So I think those might help.
Yes, we'll do it. I appreciate that.
That sounds great. Well, that's fantastic. We wish you a lot of luck in the year to come, and of course, we'll be following along closely.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So there you have it, Gary. Here's a really unique health innovation developed right here at Indiana University from one of my students, and I'm proud. Back to you, Gary.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. K. Well, still ahead, our insiders will sound off on some of the week's top stories. But first, nearly 200 middle school students are walking the halls of a new $5 million facility on Indianapolis's east side. Ahead, an Eye on Education will take you inside Avondale Meadows Middle School. Well, the Avondale Meadows Middle School was founded on the belief that every scholar deserves a high-quality education in a structured setting with high academic expectations, and all focused on a culture of care. A ribbon cutting was recently held to celebrate the completion of the new $5 million facility. And in our Eye on Education report this week, Executive Director of the United Schools of Indianapolis Network, Kelly Herron, is here now to explain how the school will help prepare students for college prep high schools and also the impact on community. And Kelly, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about this new middle school, brand new, $5 million, beautiful facility we'll talk about in a moment. But this is in addition to the Avondale Meadows Academy, which launched in 2006 for essentially grade school. But it all goes back to that 2006 range and this revitalization of the Meadows area here in Indianapolis.
Yes, so our elementary school opened in 2006, as you mentioned, as part of a revitalization of the area, built on the purpose-built model from Atlanta, Georgia, feeling that we could really revitalize the neighborhood through education.
Mm-hmm. As you think back on that, and we'll talk about the middle school in a moment, but getting that elementary school launched in 2006 to be part of a revitalization, what kind of an impact, in your view, did it have, getting the elementary school off the ground have on the Meadows area?
It's had a very significant impact. I was honored to be a founding teacher of the elementary school, so I've been with the organization since 2006 and have watched the community change over 13 years. Now that we have a YMCA and a health center and even now a grocery store in the neighborhood has been huge.
Okay, let's talk about the Avondale Meadows Middle School facility. $5 million. Talk about it because it's beautiful. We got some video this week to kind of showcase it, but talk about the school itself and some of the assets at the school.
So in the school we have 15 core classrooms. We have a media center and a state-of-the-art gym as well, which all of our students are really excited about. We have an art room and a nice science lab equipped for our scholars.
As you talk about the model, there's the physical, the $5 million, the nice facility there. But how about in terms of the support services that are offered? Because I think that may be another unique aspect of the business model, if you will.
Yeah, our model, we strongly believe that every child can be successful at high levels, and we understand that for that to happen, we have to have really well-coordinated support. So making sure that we're supporting both our scholars and our families in any way that they need to be successful. Many times we find that our children need to be healthy before they can learn, and so it takes some time through some therapeutic services or counseling services or other services that we find in the community to support our students and their families.
As you look at what you're preparing these students for, because you want to prepare, have these students be successful and be successful post, when they leave, get into college and those types of things. Is anything you can talk about there in terms of the model and preparing kids to be college ready or post high school ready, I guess?
Yeah, so we want our students to be ready for the most rigorous high schools here in the city of Indianapolis. And as you mentioned, we are unapologetically focused on college. So every one of our classrooms is named after a college or university. We send every one of our scholars to college campuses. So if a scholar is with us from kindergarten through 8th grade, they will have visited 9 college campuses by the time they leave. So we want them to see that college is an inevitable step in their future that they can attain.
Yeah, that's a very interesting aspect. Now, as we wrap up, what really fueled demand for this middle school? Because it's a big investment. What really triggered it?
So the persistence of the parents from Avondale Meadows Academy is what really caused caused us to start to think about this. Year after year, we would work really hard to get scholars ready and equipped by the time they left us in 5th grade. They would then go on to a middle school, and in the midst of dealing with everything else that a middle schooler goes through, really struggle with the transition. So parents, year after year, were demanding that we continue to serve them and their scholars through 8th grade. So this need came from our families.
Very good. Kelly Heron is the Executive Director of United Schools of Indianapolis. The new Avondale Meadows Middle School facility is open. It's a tremendous facility. And Kelly, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, coming up, our insiders are getting warmed up to sound off on the governor's $1 billion Next Level Connections program, the future of 5G in Indiana, and a really busy sports weekend in Indianapolis. There they are in the Inside Indiana Business Social Media Lounge. They'll join me in studio next. Well, each week, a group of insiders joins me to offer perspective on some of the week's top stories. This week, sounding off on the governor rolling out an ambitious $1 billion infrastructure plan that he says will improve quality of life statewide. We'll also talk 5G technology in Indiana and rural broadband connectivity, plus a big weekend for motorsports and football fans in Indiana. Our insiders this week are Women's Fund of Central Indiana Executive Director Jennifer Pope Baker. Also, Gregory and Appel Insurance Vice President of Corporate Development Steve Appel, and UIndy Associate Professor of Finance Matt Will. And welcome one and all to the insiders this week.
Thanks.
Big week, a big plan unveiled by the governor, his Next Level Connections program. $1 billion of investment, that infrastructure that covers a lot of areas, roads and bridges and the internet, direct flights, all kinds of things. Jennifer, to kind of kick things off, as you look at this plan, which will be funded by an increase of tolls on heavy trucks on the toll road, your thoughts?
Well, I like the little piece that's tucked in there that's not getting as much attention, and that is the money for trails. We're one of the most unhealthy states in the country, and so for people all over our state to have access to running and biking and walking and an opportunity to enjoy nature and space, I think is critically important.
And you know, there's the health piece. Also, this thing we hear about a lot and talk about a lot, and that's quality of life, quality of place. And this is really a statewide, $9 million, I think, is earmarked for these improvements statewide. So there's that quality of place piece as well.
You know, I think part of the issue here, and you know, I always talk about the finances, is the state is really on a spending binge, and that concerns me. You know, I've been highly critical of the governor's spending plans. This I'm a favor of, though, because this is what government's supposed to do. It's the infrastructure, it's those things that we can't do as individual companies by ourselves. But I just would caution them about the tax side. You know, we had years and years of tax cuts, now we've had a few tax increases. I think we need to prioritize spending before we go out and decide, hey, we're just going to spend a lot of money.
One of the other areas that's a real focus is rural broadband connectivity. And that's getting some of these, or many of these rural areas better connected to the internet and to the world through broadband. Your thoughts on that, Matt? There's been a lot of talk about how many of these rural areas are losing out from an education standpoint, an investment standpoint, and otherwise.
You can't understate the need for broadband, or I should say high-speed connectivity in the rural areas, because my fear is that we're going to be a little bit rushing here. If we're a bit patient, 5G is rolling out soon. 450 megabits per second is 5G. Dramatically faster than if we stick in a broadband pipe to these rural communities that gets there in 2 or 3 years, where we may have the wireless technology sooner than that, and I'd hate to have them tethered to that old, slower technology.
So you're in favor of the move. It's the technology maybe that...
Yes, when they do this, I think instead of putting in hard cable, they need to put in the towers to be forward-looking for 5G.
Okay. Another aspect, Steve, big in the business community, that's more nonstop flights, specifically nonstops to international destinations. Of course, the Paris to Indy nonstop launched in May, Flight 500 on race weekend. Your thoughts on this and the importance, in your view, that it has, in particular for the business community, to look at places like Mexico and Asia and those kinds of places?
Well, I trust the people in the IEDC and the airport are communicating on where there's potential need. The nonstop Indianapolis to San Francisco has been a very popular flight for the tech space. It's helped attract companies to Indianapolis. The Paris nonstop has been very popular this summer. A lot of people anecdotally have taken it and enjoyed it. I believe you have as well.
Right.
And then the but I don't know enough about the Mexico City demand right now, but maybe that's the link to the rest of South America, and obviously Southeast Asia and China are huge, so I think it'd be great.
Another fourth port and some other areas also part of that. Quickly, in terms of the funding mechanism, it is to increase tolls on the, I think, 3, 4, and 5 axle trucks, big, heavy trucks on the toll road. Any opposition to that or thoughts on the funding?
Yeah, I mean, I would be against the tax increase itself. I think we need to reprioritize our spending. You know, when times are good, like they are now, you know, you're supposed to be, okay, more responsible in how you do things. But instead, we tend to spend, so when the economy turns, we're all be scrapping for how do we solve the problems. Now is the time you control your spending. And it's just prioritization. I think this should be a top priority, but it's prioritizing other things.
Also this week, big news in the nonprofit scene as Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Indiana announced big news for them, a new headquarters in downtown Indianapolis around 16th and Meridian. Jennifer, as you look at an organization like that and the need for new space and the things that it will allow it to do in terms of administering to more kids and more different kinds of programs, how important is that?
I think it's critically important, and one of the things that this will do is shine a light on the need for mentors for children, because they're not going to be in that space for a while. It's going to take them a while to raise the money and to build the building, but in the meantime, while it's getting that attention, for people to understand that there are hundreds and thousands of kids in our community who need an adult who will care for them, who will be there with them to help them navigate what our world looks like today, because perhaps they don't have parents who have the capacity for a variety of reasons to do that. And so every adult that we know who has that extra time to be able to spend it and connect with kids will pay off immeasurably.
And demand for these services continues to increase, so it's nice to see an organization get new space.
Exactly.
Like that. Also this week we saw news from Republic Airways Holdings, the Lift Academy, Steve. The airline industry is really facing a critical pilot shortage. Republic a few months ago said this is a critical need, a critical issue. We're going to take matters into our own hands. So they've essentially opened this academy where they are going to train this next generation of pilots, people who maybe couldn't afford it in the past. They started, they quit, they're in a job, they'd like to change careers. Your thoughts?
So a little context, I have a cousin who switched careers at about 30 to become a pilot. He's the first graduate of Purdue's program. Right. And Purdue just launched one of these as well. And he'd shared that when he gets out, there'd be 5 job opportunities for him, and within 5 years flying for a major. So there's a huge demand, and people have just been retiring and they haven't been backfilling. So it sounds like that there's such demand that they're doubling down. Yep,
innovative solution. Okay, before we leave, we've got some sports we want to touch on. This is a big weekend for sports in Indianapolis. The Brickyard 400 is back. It's the opening weekend of the NFL. And I think that may be unfortunate for the Brickyard because that's on Sunday. The NFL opens essentially on Sunday as well.
It's an exciting weekend to be in Indianapolis. You have a lot of great choices. Hopefully we will be treated well by Mother Nature. Right. I think that Doug Bowles and company have done everything they can to this year make it exciting to be at the track. With all the activities that took place during the week and the concerts and the new dirt track and having a cooler opportunity to watch the race on Sunday, you can't beat the effort.
And you're right, in that new dirt track, innovative effort, trying to make things happen. No shortage of that effort, to be sure. And as we wrap up the Colts Open, a new head coach, a new Andrew Luck, I guess maybe a new shoulder, against the Bengals. Any takers as we leave on how you think the season's going to be?
Yeah, Super Bowl.
So, okay, all right, we'll keep that on tape.
I'm going to go, unfortunately, 8-8. But a good improvement.
That is an improvement. Okay.
I'll take 8-8. That'll be a good one.
Steve Appel, Jennifer Pope Baker, also Matt Will. Thank you, one and all, and we'll be right back after this.
Thank you.
Well, coming up next week, after 10 years, gourmet marshmallow company 240sweets.com is ceasing operations, actually switching gears to a new line of sugar-free, low-carb, and gluten-free treats and foods. We'll introduce you to that new company. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.